So, kind of frustrated. Already recorded this video, but my computer decided to not save it, so I have to do it again. But nevertheless, Chapter 18 is all about on-the-job public speaking, and the first thing it talks about is having to give reports. So when you won't give your report, you want to make sure you know who your audience is, which is kind of true to any public speech, but what do they already know and what are you trying to get across? And then what questions do you think they'll have at the end when giving after you've given the report, what questions do you think they'll have? This is really important because if you've already kind of have a set of answers in your head for the questions that the people will have, you can give really snappy answers and it's going to make you seem that much more knowledgeable about the report you're giving. Researching for a report is a bit different than just researching for any other speech or paper that you're doing, and it's kind of cool because when you're doing a report on your job, all your research is basically going to be on your company, so you already have access to all of that yourself. And then you also might want to research other companies to see what they're doing in a similar situation and what's working for them and what's not working for them. Take the points that are working for them and make sure you don't do the things that aren't working for them, or maybe you take the things that aren't working for them and say, this is how we can make this work for us. That's going to help you just put your company one step ahead of their competitors. Then another thing is creating an outline. Once again, outlines help for just that extemporaneous confidence you have to make sure you're staying organized and staying on topic. The one thing I'm noticing as we get deeper and deeper into this book is that the basic concepts of giving a speech are kind of similar in every type of speech you're giving, whether it be a report, an informative speech, persuasive speech, or just talking to your friends, anything like that. And then when you're actually presenting your report, you want to make sure you have backups. So let's say what happens if your PowerPoint kind of crashes or deletes it off your computer or something. For example, you record a video and you're going to give that to a report and then your computer decides it doesn't want to save it. How do you fix that? So my kind of like go-to law is that you should always save any important information to two places. So whether it be on the hard drive of your computer in a USB, or maybe you have two computers, anything like that, just make sure you always have it in two places. I save almost everything in Google Drive, but I make sure that anything important I have in Google Drive is also saved somewhere else. What happens if Google Drive crashes today? You're going to give you a report. What are you going to do? Having extra equipment is also great. You know, if you, let's say you know the projector in the room you're giving your report is kind of flaky and doesn't always work. If you have good relations with your IT department, maybe say, hey, can I borrow an extra bulb today? I'm giving a report and I don't think the projector is the most dependable one, so I just want to be able to quickly change it out. And that can save a lot of time, and when you're working for a company, time is money, so you can save your company a lot of money as well. Having handouts is great. You know, handouts can be really bad. If you have too much information on them and they're distracting from your report, it's going to kind of take away from the message or point you're trying to get across. But if you're giving a speech or a report to, let's say, 20 people and you have a small projector that's kind of supposed to project graphs, or maybe your graphs have a lot of small text, giving a handout with images of those can just help the people say, okay, I can see what's on there, let me make sure I'm really seeing the numbers correctly, and that allows them to take notes and stuff like that. It can really help them be even more engaged with your report. And then the other thing it talks about is what are you going to do if you have a website that you plan on using and it crashes? How do you plan to accommodate for that? The one thing I did a couple times in high school, because I knew my high school's Wi-Fi was really flaky, was you can actually save a website to your computer. So what that does is it'll save all the code and the HTML and CSS to your computer, and that way you don't actually need internet to run the website. So if you're using a website that you want to say, hey, this is what our competitor is doing, as you can see on their website, but you know that maybe your Wi-Fi is not going to work too well that day on the job, you can save it to your computer and be able to say, I can still pull it up, and that's going to show your employer, if any of your higher ups are at the report, I'm going to say, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. The next thing it talks about is meetings. And if you have to lead the meeting, a good thing you want to make sure is identify a clear purpose of the meeting. So what do you want to come out of that meeting having accomplished? And that's really important for when you want to create an agenda, which is the next thing it talks about. An agenda is just kind of a set plan you can send to all the people who are going to be part of the meeting. Just to kind of say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to stay on topic, we're going to go from the top to bottom and get through this meeting and make sure we get it done. If you're not leading and you've been requested to participate in a meeting, the one thing you want to do is respond quickly once you're invited or requested to be there. This is just going to show that you're on top of things and be able to say like, hey, got it, I'm going to be there. And that's going to help the person leading the meeting be a little bit more organized, and they're not going to have to keep going back to you like, hey, 2 o'clock tomorrow, you're going to be there. You know what I mean? It just makes it easier for them. Read the agenda. Make sure you know what's going on. This is going to help you kind of come up with any questions you might have or points you want to make at the meeting. Keep your discussion to a minimum. The one thing I always hate when working in a group or when you're in a meeting with a group is the concept that everyone wants to hear themselves talk, and whether they're making points that don't matter or points people already made, they want to hear themselves talk, and that's one thing you don't want to do when you're in a meeting. So just make sure you keep your discussion to a minimum. But when you are discussing or when you are participating, you want to be energetic and enthusiastic. You don't want to make the leader feel as though he's giving a really dull presentation or running a really dull meeting. You want to keep that energy flowing, and that's going to help get through the agenda a lot quicker too. And then the last thing it talks about is giving an interview. And the one big thing that I didn't even know this was a part of an interview, but knowing what you can or can't ask. There are actually questions you aren't legally allowed to ask in an interview. So I didn't know that, but I think that's pretty cool because you could cause a lot of issues if you ask questions you're not supposed to. Review the resume and the cover letter of the interviewee that you're going to be talking to. This helps, one, save time so you don't have to go through and ask questions that you could have already found out on the resume. And two, it kind of helps you figure out the person that you're going to be interviewing from the get-go. And then lastly, if you run out of questions or want to know something, this can help you come up with ideas. So let's say you're interviewing someone for a database management part and you see on their file that they have 2 database management classes that they passed in college. You can kind of say, okay, tell me about that. And from their answer, you can kind of tell, like, is this someone who really learned what they're doing and really knows what they're doing when it comes to administrating a database? Or is it just someone who kind of walked through a class just to get the A? And then lastly, time and location. It's really important when giving an interview to make sure the person has clear directions on where to go, when it's going to be, and you want to allot around 45 minutes to an hour to give the interview. The last thing you want is to have someone you really think could be a possible client for the job and have them say, hey, I was here at 1 o'clock, our meeting was at 1:15, couldn't find where to go, by 2 o'clock I had to go to my next interview. So those are just some ways to be a better, employee when you're on the job just through public speaking.